Okay, this is Mike Franklin, the property tax guy, and I'm going to continue my series on the Assess the Assessor. And today we're going to talk about the assessor in the town of Morristown in St. Lawrence County, James Snyder. I had a number of cases in his township, which includes parts of Black Lake up in the North Country, and he had reassessed some properties on that lake, and he had upset a number of people. I mean, they were angry, to say the least. One of the property owners had their family had owned this property for more than 100 years, and all of a sudden their assessment jumped significantly, multiple fold, and that had happened with other people as well. And so we had a number of cases, and over the course of 2 years, I had cases with him, and every one of the property owners was really angry, but oftentimes property owners mistake the difference between a high assessment and high taxes. In this case, what they were mostly upset about was the rapid change of their assessment. Just overnight, it like tripled or quadrupled. It was I forget the numbers, but I mean these are properties that are boat access only type properties. And one guy claimed he just used it to gather firewood off of, and now they're starting to consider it like a recreational property, and so they're properties that had very limited seasonal use and had been in people's families for generations, and so these people were upset, and I understand where they're coming from. And at that it's like a bait and switch. You've been for 100 years. You've been paying this relatively small amount of money, and then all of a sudden, it's a significant amount of money, and I can appreciate that. But on the other hand, the other side of the argument is that it appears as though these people have not been paying their share for generations. So how do you look at it? It's essentially, the assessment is supposed to be based on fair market value, and these properties have value. And, so that's just the methodology of how taxes work. It's based on fair market value. And so the fair market value that they'd been assessed at for years was way below fair market value. So it really wasn't equitable to the mainland property owners for many years. So these people can be upset that all of a sudden their taxes quadrupled, or they could look at it that they got away with paying 1/4 of what it is that they should have for decades. So anyway, I understood why they were upset, but what we're doing here is we're assessing the assessor and how it is that the assessor behaved. And their customer service. Well, in this case, this assessor was angering a lot of people, and he was not afraid to do what was unpopular. In other words, he's standing up for the people who may not know that they're getting basically screwed over, and he's doing his job, and if doing his job upsets people, it could create political problems, because a lot of these people were contacting, their government officials trying to get rid of this guy. They're saying the guy's a jerk and he's a terrible guy. But the fact of the matter is he was doing his job. And I applaud him for doing what was unpopular. He was just doing his job. And, now, what he could have done is, he could have been, because, my impression of him is, I have a lot of respect for his He's an appraiser. I think he was a real estate broker, or at least was in real estate. I mean, he's an experienced guy. He knows how to value properties, and if he has a weakness, it's perhaps he could use a little Dale Carnegie training, because he's a little stiff. He's like a drill sergeant or something. But I think that he's fantastic, except that he probably should have been more patient and more and be more. He should have tried to explain the situation to these people better. Perhaps he could have been nicer about it. But I just applaud him for doing his job and being willing to do what's unpopular and expose himself to potentially being fired for doing his job properly. But like I said, if he could do something better, it would be, just try to smooth over it. The people had every reason to be upset, but it doesn't make them right. They've been getting really good deal for decades, and now they're being asked to pay their fair share, and they don't like it. But I just think to quadruple somebody's taxes overnight it should be illegal, and it is in some states, and it should be done more gradually over time. And so even though he was doing the right thing, so the assessors for that town had previously made mistakes, and now they're trying to correct their mistake, and they're trying to do it overnight. It kind of reminds me of the Civil War. Everybody knew that the slavery was wrong, and then all of a sudden we're going to make it right overnight. What's going to happen? There's going to be a war, and the same thing is happening here. If we had, if the North had kind of eased into slavery, you don't just challenge somebody's economic system overnight. There's going to be a war. There's going to be a battle. And the same thing is true here. And perhaps there could have been a way found to ease these people into doing their share instead of just doing it overnight. But so in other words, this assessor was just literally doing his job, but it wasn't really the right thing to do. But I understood where he was coming from. And I think that the town should feel comfortable that they have a good assessor. And I hope that the townspeople will respect that they have a good assessor. But it's the policies of the town that are the issue. It's not the assessor. And they should have, they had a problem, and they should have found another way to go about it. So when I was the hearing officer on those cases, and I tried to, I'd have to go back and read each one of those cases. But I didn't allow them to do it overnight. So I try. In other words, I may have been overstepping my bounds, but as to where my authority was, and conceivably somebody could have appealed my decisions, and it could have been reversed. But I wasn't going to. I was going to do what's right over what was legal when it was so clear that what was legal was wrong, and so. So I kind of tried to ease them into it. I raised their assessments, significantly, but I kind of toned it down a little bit, and let the assessor know that let's try to, and who knows what's going to transpire in the future, but in this case the taxpayers were right, and they were also wrong because other people have been paying their way for a long time. But I appreciated their position, and I appreciated the assessor's position. Completely respected what he was doing. There could have been another way. But the thing is, that was my job. My job was to do it. but what's funny about it is that the administrative judges that oversee the SCAR process, and I was the SCAR hearing officer, Small Claims Assessment Review. I don't think that they would have agreed with my decision. But but they gave me the authority to handle that position, and I did what I thought was right, and I have no regrets about it. And I stand by every one of those decisions. But at the same time, I fully respect the position of that assessor, and I think that he is one of the top assessors that I've run into. Just be a little bit friendlier, be a little more patient, and explain situations to people. But but otherwise, I think he's a great assessor. His name is James Snyder, and I think he does a great job. And we all can improve in what it is that we're doing, and obviously myself included. I think that like I said, I've dealt with dozens of assessors. He's probably in the top five. And anyway, Town of Morristown, St. Lawrence County Assessor James Snyder. I applaud him for his work. I think he's doing a great job. This is Mike Franklin, the Property Tax Guy.